Welcome, everybody, and welcome to Unanswered Questions. Sometimes during our live broadcast, we just don't get enough time to answer all the amazing questions we get from students. So we're going to spend some time and answer the top upvoted unanswered questions from students in March. Let's get into it.
Woohoo! Here we go.
All right, first question from a student. If the White Hatter is a family business, do you make any profit?
I'll take the answer. I'll answer that one. Yeah, we are what are known as a social capital small business. Yes, as a company, we charge fees for our services for sure. However, we also offer a lot of our services pro bono for no cost whatsoever. Like we just have a ton of information that we put out online for parents, caregivers, law enforcement, educators, teens themselves, as well as when a lot of teens, parents, or anybody else connect with us because they're in trouble and they need help. We don't charge them any money for that. So we're classified as a social capital small business. So yes, we're there to make a profit because we're a business, but we also give a lot back to the community because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we need to pay for the electricity to run the studio.
Yeah.
And taxes and gas and
everything else that makes the world go round.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So, yeah. Can nudes be used against you later on in life?
Why don't you take that one?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, somebody has an old nude they find of you and they say, hey, you don't do this. I'm going to post this on the internet. I mean, that's doable. More so, if someone's going to use a nude against you, it's more so going to happen right away because typically older nudes may not be as powerful.
No.
In terms of, it depends. I mean, if it's an older nude of you, you're an adult now, and now it's a nude of you as a teen, that's probably not going to be very powerful for the hacker per se.
I guess it depends. I mean, we have seen cases, we've been involved in cases where nudes that were sent years ago all of a sudden are resurfaced and used by a frenemy who wants to weaponize it for the purposes of embarrassing that individual or maybe having them getting fired from their job. Like I remember dealing with a situation where a person who sent a nude years prior was working in a business where they were having to work with teens and youth, and as a result of that, one of her frenemies decided to post the nude saying, how can this person be working with youth, because look at what it is that they did. So they actually weaponized it later in life. So that can happen.
I did report something to Snapchat and they did nothing about it.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. I mean, a couple things here. Number one, Snapchat, in order for them to do something about it, it needs to violate their terms of service. And what you see to be a violation of terms of service may not be what Snap sees to be as its violation of terms of service, right?
Even if it is a violation, you have to look at, Snapchat is a free app. So it's not as if they are paying a bunch of people to investigate every single report or violation. Typically what they do is they will categorize the most serious violations and deal with those first, and then things that are less serious actually may not ever be investigated by Snap. So, I mean, if we started paying for Snap, then I guess they would have the resources to do that. But I mean, then who's going to use Snapchat?
Exactly.
So there are limitations, and that's why it is kind of on us individuals to kind of make sure that we are creating the experience we want to have and have the circles of people that we choose to have in places like Snapchat and other apps so that we can prevent challenges in the first place.
Good point. Yeah.
How do I avoid getting cyberbullied, sending new messages, and defend myself from all the bad stuff happening?
Go for it, dude.
Kind of similar to what we've always said is you need to choose the experiences you want to have. Making sure you have your privacy settings enabled, having the people in your networks you actually do trust. The more public you become on the internet, statistically, the higher chances people are going to say mean, rude, ugly things to you.
Yeah.
But if you can control your network to the people that you mostly trust, well, then the chances of bad things happening go down dramatically.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
Is it illegal if someone screenshots your nudes and shares them, but they delete them?
I'll answer that one. Yep. As soon as they screenshot and share your nude without your consent, even if they delete them, it's illegal. right? It's illegal under the Criminal Code of Canada. And potentially the province in which you live, it could also fall in violation of specific legislation in those provinces, right?
And most countries around the world have laws pretty similar around to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there things that content creators of horror content can do to protect kids from their content without limiting the reach of their content other than standard age limitations that are easily broken by young people?
Go for it.
Okay.
That was a mouthful.
That was a big question. Not really. I know on places like Twitch and such, you can set your streams to 18 plus, and yeah, it's you get that pop up. Are you 18 plus? Yes or no?
Yeah.
So unless there's government based age verification where you submit your government ID to the platform, which unlikely it's going to happen because as we've seen, social platforms aren't very all that good at keeping your stuff private, safe, and secure.
Exactly.
So people are very hesitant to do that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there's not really. I think it's on, the families of young kids in order to choose and curate those experiences.
Yeah.
Sort of, choose the approved list of here are the creators you can watch, enjoy, and consume.
Yeah. I mean, age verification has always been a challenge. And even with age verification, some companies are starting to look at it more and more. There's cons against age verification technology as well. So it's going to be a challenge, and I think it will continue to be a challenge.
Most certainly. If I have a friend who is being targeted online for harassment around the school, it usually stays online, but some have found where he lives. It's no small group either. It seems to be getting pretty bad, and we aren't sure what to do about it.
Go for it.
Well, I would say record what's happening, take screenshots, video recordings of the content. It seems like you probably have an idea of who it actually is. So you have that saved recording, and then you take it and you report it to, it looks to be a school-based group. So that means there's a nexus back to the school where then your school policy can apply. So your school staff and administrators can help you deal with that situation.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that sometimes there's only so much that youth and teens can do to deal with this issue. There may come a point in time where you have to reach out to an adult who has more power and more ability to deal with these situations, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned self-harm a bit. Would you say that is a common result of online bullying?
I wouldn't say it's a common result, but it is something that can happen as being targeted for digital peer aggression or cyberbullying, for sure. Like, we've dealt with youth who, as a result of being targeted online in just brutal ways, have turned to self-harm as an option. Is it common? No. Is it something that can happen? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What is your vision for the White Hatter in the future?
Oh, that's one for you.
Oh,
you're the CEO.
Ideally, I would love to see White Hatter programs being taught at every single school across North America.
Oh, that's a big goal.
That would be where every student at every age, because we have our programs designed from grade 4, 5, 6, 7, middle school, high school, but sometimes students at different schools don't get the information from previous grades. And, if you were to give a young person the best digital literacy education, it would be following us from grade 4 to high school, because we build upon it.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes challenging talking to a high school student who may not have the fundamental understandings of the internet, where we kind of talk about in grade 4 or 5.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That would be my idea. It'd be every grade you would have a White Hatter display content, whatever we produce.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is why we were working on VODs to make it more accessible.
Absolutely.
How do I know if an online friend isn't someone they are not?
That's always the challenge, right? Because you just don't know who's on the other side of that internet connection. And today, because of the new deep fake technology, it can make it even more difficult to figure out if the person is really who they say they are, right? So that's one of the challenges with new technology that is now on the horizon, right?
Yeah, we're not saying like that person is a bad person. It's
No.
just, would I trust that person the same level as, say, a person who I know from school, for example?
Exactly.
There's different levels of friendship, and a certain level of friends get shared certain amounts of information.
For sure.
Your best friend at school is you're probably sharing information with them you wouldn't share with other friends.
Yeah.
So, until that person really starts doing something that is wrong, not right, illegal, gross, unsettling, well then, I treat them as a normal, average, decent person.
Right.
It's not like I trust them with everything.
Correct. Yeah. And most people who you're going to meet online for the first time are actually going to be really nice people. They don't want to hurt you. They don't want to do bad things to you. However, there are some people that are there primarily for the purposes of predating young people.
Yeah.
That happens.
There's some bad eggs out there.
There are.
How to not get sent inappropriate things.
I don't think you can prevent that 100% of the time, right? We can help minimize it. We can help mitigate issues surrounding that by setting up proper, security procedures and protocols and that kind of stuff. But I don't think you can ever prevent anything from not being sent to you if somebody wants to do it.
Yeah, the moment you connect to the internet, there's a possibility for anybody anywhere to send you something. Now, you can limit the chances by having a private account, making your friends network people who actually truly do know.
Setting up AirDrop properly on iDevices, right?
Yes.
Stuff like that.
There are things you can do to prevent that. And really, inappropriate things are more so sent to people who are very public and open on the internet.
Yes.
Where they haven't, pruned down their online privacy.
Yeah.
So.
For sure.
What is classified as a nude?
Ooh, this is right up your wheelhouse.
Well, so generally in research and headlines, you got your nude and semi-nudes. Sometimes people combine the terms, sometimes people don't. To us, a full nude is where there are genitalia showing under the definition of what most laws consider naked nude imagery. Some people tend to take that term nude and apply other content like semi-nudes, bathing suits, underwear. So, for us, if it's just a nude, it's a fully naked nude image.
Yeah, that shows genitalia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys all over the country?
Yep.
We can be. With broadcasting, we can go anywhere.
I mean, even prior to broadcasting, we were traveling across the country, right? But that can get quite expensive. But what's really cool now about the virtual studio that we have here is that we can reach around the world. Like you taught to an English-speaking school in Thailand not too long ago. I mean, how cool is that?
We did a program with the RCMP, and it was simultaneously being broadcast across almost every province
and every territory. Yeah.
At the same time.
At the same time. Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, just super efficient.
Yeah.
So yeah, we technically are.
Yeah.
What should I do if someone only talks to me for nudes?
Well, we've got a tool for that, right? It's called No, It's Rude to Ask for a Nude tool, right? So one of the things I say is if somebody keeps asking you for nudes, you send them this tool that we have. It's called No, It's Rude to Ask for a Nude. And if they ask you again, then block and delete them and then potentially report them. Because here in Canada, we can speak about Canada. If somebody's consistently asking you for nudes after you tell them not to, they're actually breaking the law. Now, that's in Canada. That may differ in other countries around the world.
Some countries just asking once is a violation of federal law,
right?
Depending on age ranks and such. So, yeah, certainly that's a concerning relationship.
Yes, for sure.
If that's happening,
right?
So, getting out of that is really important.
It is.
Was the Tide Pod challenge really widespread? No, I mean, what do you define as what does that mean, right? I mean, people often say it's an epidemic, but like at what? I mean, sure, there's a CDC definition of epidemic, so which I can't recall the numbers top of my head.
The Tide Pod challenge, as well as a lot of the other challenges that were out there. I mean, it became popular for some who wanted to use it as clickbait, right? But to say that every teen was doing it just isn't true. But it was something that did trend, and those people who were doing it, the whole purpose of them doing it was to get clicks. It was to get likes associated with it, right? And it was dangerous.
What if you really, really want to code, but you have minimal experience? Can I still learn Unity within 2-year time frames? Unity, probably. I mean, I'm not too familiar with that particular framework. I would say probably. 2 years full-time focus. Yeah, I would assume you could.
I mean, there's so many different ways that you can learn how to code. Like Canada Learns Coding is a really good example of a resource here in Canada where you can turn to learn how to code, right? And so you can take it incrementally.
Yep.
And so I think over a 2-year time frame, I think it would be very easy to become very proficient when it comes to things like Python, HTML, JavaScript, C++, Unity, whatever.
Yeah, I think with Unity, I mean, you might want to try like maybe playing with like Blender first.
Yeah.
Because there's tons of tutorials on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Being it's, relatively free and open. So I would say it's possible. Depends how much time, effort, and focus and dedication you put into it.
Yeah, for sure.
Should we quit some apps so our personal data is not collected, or is there some other way?
Yeah, I find that a lot of people are downloading apps because everybody else is doing it, right? So I think when it comes to apps, pick the ones that you know you're going to use. And the reality is, if it's a free app, you're pretty well guaranteeing you that the only way that they can make their money is by collecting personal private information from you and selling it to third parties to their financial benefit. So again, you have to make that decision. If it's free and you download it, then that type of information is going to be collected and sold.
Mm-hmm. What age do you recommend YouTube for? Well, YouTube has its recommendation limitations of 13. Now, that's to make an account. So, there is YouTube Kids, which is designed for younger ages. It really depends what you're using it for and what you're actually watching. I mean, even for, say, older teens, there's content on YouTube that's probably not appropriate for those age ranks.
Correct.
So, it depends what you're really watching and doing on it.
Yeah, you can do some really cool things with YouTube. There's no doubt about it.
At what age do you recommend a phone?
It's not so much about age, it's about one's ability to have the maturity enough to use a phone for the purpose that it's designed for. So, I mean, I think it's a mistake to say that, we should wait till the age of 16 before somebody gets a phone, because the reality is, I know some 18-year-olds who have the maturity level of a 6-year-old, but yet I know some 13-year-olds who have the maturity level of an 18-year-old. So it's not so much about age, it's about one's ability to deal with things from a maturity standpoint in order to make proper decisions, those types of issues.
Mm-hmm. Do all things that are free track you? Not necessarily. No. There are free open source privacy focused programs, apps, and networks, but they're definitely rare.
Yeah, I think if it's a traditional social media platform that you're using and it's free, you're pretty well guaranteeing that they're tracking and collecting your information, because that's how they monetize. That's how they make their money.
There are a few niche sort of resources out there, but normally they're backed by charities, not-for-profits, and they're being subsidized by some other financial resource.
I mean, a really good example is Kinzu. We love Kinzu, right? The Kinzu messaging app for young people. They don't track and they don't sell your information, right? So, yeah.
How often does identity theft happen?
It's the number one crime being committed against youth right across our country, right?
We have seen an increase from government reporting agencies showing an increase of that. Now, that's only the instances that are actually shared and with the reporting agencies. So we know there's tons of this happening that's not recorded.
Correct.
So,
and again, it's primarily because we are putting way too much information about ourselves into our social media feeds, believing that because our privacy buttons are on, that it's going to stay private, when in fact that's not true. But it is the number one crime being committed against teens and youth and even adults right across our country right now.
What are your thoughts on Web3?
Go for it.
Web3 designing to be a more decentralized ecosystem, generally relying on blockchain, Bitcoins, and whatnot. It's an interesting concept because we put a lot of our information and data in the control of really only a few powerful organizations. So taking that power away can have some very impactful results. But as we've seen with things like Bitcoin and NFTs, if you have the money and resources, you can sort of, manipulate the market to your benefit. and there would be no overarching body to limit that or control that. So there are pros and there are cons.
Yeah.
I like the idea in concept, but does it actually work that way in reality? We'll have to wait to see.
Mm-hmm.
In what way is TikTok challenging?
I think what makes TikTok challenging compared to all the other social media platforms out there is its algorithms, right? Like they use a specific algorithm that can sometimes start to drag you down deep, dark holes that you really don't want to go to. I mean, most social networks, you're seeking out information that you want to see. TikTok's algorithm kind of sends you information that it thinks that you want to see and where you want to go, right? And that therein lies the biggest challenge.
Yeah, traditional media like YouTube, usually the content you're subscribed to, it's usually a 5, 10, 15, 30-minute video. Mm-hmm. But in that amount of time, you watch one video on YouTube, mm-hmm. you're probably consuming, 10 TikToks.
Yeah.
So just the probability and chances of something maybe inappropriate popping up does increase. Mm-hmm. But also depends on the filter bubble and your algorithm and your For You page that you've curated.
Yeah.
Now, what I do like is TikTok has announced, and I think it's rolled out to most people now, is you can actually reset your filter. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of wipe it as a clean slate, mm-hmm. which is actually kind of, I think, interesting.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that for sure, and to watch, right, and see what researchers have to say about that very issue, for sure.
You get that one weird video and it's like, oh, okay. And then somehow you spend a little more extra time on that because it just caught your attention.
Right.
But now the next entire day, your entire feed is filled with the very same type of videos. Like, no, take me back to what I usually watch.
Yeah.
So you kind of lose control in that.
Yeah.
But at least TikTok's giving you some ability to kind of get back that control.
Yeah.
Will TikTok ever get banned?
We're seeing this in countries and governments, right, are saying that, hey, listen, they no longer allow any kind of government devices or social media platforms to have TikTok on. So they've banned them off of government devices, right? But, there's a lot of hype going on over TikTok, but you've said it best, is that the information that TikTok is collecting from you is the same type of information that Facebook, Meta, Instagram, Snapchat, Discord, Twitch, all the other ones are collecting and selling the same stuff, right?
Disney.
So, yeah, Disney. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? For sure. So will it get banned? I mean, the United States, if there's any country that's moving more towards a whole ban, it's the United States. But, I'm kind of thinking like these government officials don't understand that, okay, you ban it in the United States. So whether the kids do, they download a VPN and turn their VPN to Australia or to Canada or to whatever, and poof, they have access again.
But some of them don't even know how Wi-Fi works.
I know. That was pretty funny.
Does TikTok connect to my Wi-Fi?
TikTok.
Now, I mean,
I know one of the legislators actually called it TikTok, right?
I know. And how does Wi-Fi? What? No, I think a lot of the talks on bans are more just political sound bites.
It is
just to show I'm here to protect you from the evil Chinese government or whatever xenophobia is going on in the current day and age we live in.
Yeah, the political environment right now surrounding China, Russia, the United States. It's getting very heated. So there's a lot of stuff being said and shots being going back and forth. And TikTok right now, because it's the most popular app being used by kids, and because it's owned by a company where China has the ability to access all that information, it now becomes an issue for some countries, right? So, but it's interesting, right? Because again, what TikTok collects is really not anything different than any of the other social media platforms, what they collect.
Or I think the best comment from that was the CEO Cho. They made that comment about, well, if history's shown, Western social media agencies haven't done a very good job protecting data, like Facebook and Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah, for sure.
Mic drop.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
yeah,
shots fired.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Burn.
But right now, there's no doubt that the spotlight is on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So
that was a great comment. How often do people do or say inappropriate things on websites?
It happens, right? It happens. Sometimes purposely, sometimes by complete accident, right? But sometimes it happens. But again, I can't emphasize enough that when I look at what teens are doing online, most of them are doing super cool and creative things, right? They're not posting inappropriate stuff. However, there are some teens that do, and those can come back to haunt you later on if you're not careful.
Can I post pictures of me playing sports? Well, I think if it's fine within your family. I mean, if that's acceptable, and I mean, if you're doing that and you have a goal of achieving a scholarship or a grant to play sports, semi or professional, I mean, go right ahead. That can only benefit you, especially if you're good at the sport you're doing.
I mean, a good example, we worked with a teen who was a soccer player, and with his father, they took pictures and videos of both his soccer practices and his games, and he sent it to a number of colleges and universities across Canada looking for a scholarship, and as a result of that, he earned an athletic scholarship for soccer. I mean, pretty cool.
What can I do to prevent identity theft? Secure and privatize your accounts.
Right.
Passwords, security, two-factor authentication, privatize your accounts, limit your networks to the friends you actually truly do know. That's definitely the best steps to take.
Yeah, and minimize some of the private identifiable information that is important for creating credit, like maybe your full address, your social insurance number, your driver's license numbers, those types of things you just don't want to be posting online.
Yeah, a lot of identity theft information is not stolen because you have intentionally posted something personal or private. Maybe it's something in the background of your picture or video that leaks the information.
Right.
I think that's people often tend to forget about.
Yeah, I mean, as online investigators, we're trained to not just look at the individual in the picture, but also what's behind the individual in the picture, right? Because often what's in the background can tell a lot about who somebody is.
Someone doing in an office environment takes a selfie, their computer with their Post-it note password on their monitor.
Exactly.
Did you consider that?
Exactly.
So that's sometimes how a lot of these hacks and scams happen.
Or I was at a business the other day, and they were doing some work, and they had their yellow sticky on their computer, and it was their passcode, username and passcode, right there in broad daylight that anybody could see it. And therefore there was they actually had open Wi-Fi in that business as well. So there was nothing to stop somebody if they're, maybe a black hat hatter or somebody wants to do something that they shouldn't be doing, all of a sudden signing in using their username and password to have full access, right? So those are things that need to be identified.
Is a VPN just in general a good idea to have? Yeah, totally. I mean, on my phone's almost always connected in terms of my VPN.
Yeah, me too. I mean, whenever I'm using any kind of Wi-Fi, I always have my VPN on. Yeah. So I do think, but you got to be careful, right? Because, the type of VPN you're using, like we say, don't use a free VPN. It slows down your internet connection. If it's free, it's probably collecting your information and selling it. So go with a premium VPN. Get your parents to buy one. You can pick them up now for between $70 to $80. And usually once you download it, you can put it up to 10 devices in your home. So not only can you put it on your device, but you can get parents to put it on their devices to keep them safer and more secure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible for someone on the internet to uncrop the photos you post online? Actually, that's a very good question. Just a few weeks ago, there was a bug in the Microsoft and Google Pixel screenshot app program where the original photo was saved more or less in the metadata. So if you had sent somebody the proper full original file, it was cropped, you might be able to, through some coding trickery, reveal the actual image. Now, if you had posted that cropped photo on the internet where Facebook, Instagram, Meta, they take their own copy of that, then no, unlikely. Right. But if I were to email you a photo, Dropbox you a photo, AirDrop you a photo, and it was cropped, there was a bug. Now, the bug's now fixed in the programs, but there still might be some files that are out there that may still have that flaw.
So I mean the simple answer to that question is probably not. No. But is there a possibility? Sure.
Yeah, as we saw with that bug in Windows and Google Pixel phones. And you can imagine the things people want to crop out. Yeah. Because the websites are so addicting, okay? Why don't we put on restrictions? I heard a story that a kid who did bad things because they felt they insulted TikTok. There should be restrictions. Should there be restrictions on these apps?
Well, a couple things here. Most apps and social networks do have restrictions and terms of service on how to use them. and people just violate them, right? And they just violate them. I also think that we got to be very careful about using this word addiction, right? Because I think the good evidence-based peer-reviewed research shows us that it's not so much addicting, it's more about it becoming problematic behavior in its use of it. Like the word addiction is not identified in the DSM-5 specific to technology and technology addiction. So, but I do think that a lot of these social networks do have age restrictions. They do have user restrictions that are they're right in the terms of service, right? It's just that people violate them.
Yeah, even though, like TikTok, when you sign up and you're under the age of 15, they have automatic restrictions put into place.
Right.
But, I mean, how many people, when they sign up for TikTok, select they're under the age of 15 or 18? They don't. They go, give me the full access.
Exactly.
So unless, again, you submit a government photo ID and a system to do that, which is concerning in of itself.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I would agree. There are some people who should not be using social media because of who they are, challenges they may be experiencing in their life. Yeah.
And what's funny about that, I actually see more adults doing bad things in these social media apps and social networks than I do teens, right? So,
yep. Especially against politics. Oh,
yeah.
Boy. Would you be able to go into a court case if someone was recording you and selling it for money? That would be like a civil case. Like, it wouldn't be like a criminal case. It would be like a civil case. You have to sue somebody to do that.
Well, criminally, it could be voyeurism as well, depending upon what they're doing, right? So a good example, we came across an incident where we helped a family where two teens were having consensual sex, but unknown to them, there was another student on a ladder outside of the window of the house with their smartphone recording what was going on in the bedroom, the consensual sex, right? So that individual, that teen, was then arrested for voyeurism, right? Because that's what they were doing. So there could be criminal.
Were they selling it for money though? Because that would be like a copyright thing, right?
Yeah. Well, you could have both, right? Like you could be charged criminally for voyeurism, and then potentially there could be copyright issues there as well, right? So, it's interesting. But I think the answer to that question is, yeah, you could be, right?
You could be. You could be.
Context. We say this all the time, right? It comes down to context of what they were doing and how they obtained the recording.
Yeah, if you're walking down the street, I record you and I sell that. I mean, you might. I'm not a lawyer, so don't. No. I mean, that's just our experience. Yeah. But and they sell that in a full blown movie production. Yeah. Then you might have something to go on there.
Right. Or let's say a company like Nike sees you walking down the street wearing their Nike shoes, and they record it, and then they're using it in an advertisement without your permission, then that also can have civil consequences, right?
It's interesting because there's arguments I've seen because if I am a private person, I record you, I post on social media, technically the social media is making money off of that through ads. So I have seen some hypothetical arguments that's no different than Nike making a commercial.
That's a hypothetical argument.
It's a hypothetical.
But what I can tell you is the Nike example I gave you is actually case law.
That has happened, yes. Yeah. But I've seen arguments going, well, that's the same thing as Facebook. Right. So, but then the Section 230 where you're... Yeah. So, interesting question. I like it.
We get some great questions, right? Like we get some questions from teens right now that you kind of go, oh, that one really made me think, right? So...
If you still want to use Omegle or other apps like that, is there a secure way to use it?
It's not the app, it's not the social media platform, it's not the streaming platform, it's how people use it that make it good or bad. However, having said that, you got to be careful because Omegle is not private, right? And sometimes Omegle and some of the other streaming apps are one of the primary ways that people who want to target teens for sexually inappropriate behavior are going to go.
Yeah, because, things like Snapchat, you connect with your friends, you share your Snap accounts to contact. So you are choosing who you want to connect to. So if you're just randomly popping in with rooms of people you don't know, I mean, the possibility and the chances of that person saying mean, rude, ugly things.
Or seeing something that you shouldn't be seeing. I mean, having said that, I've seen Omegle where, you're on there and all of a sudden you'll come across somebody who says, hey, do you want me to play a song on the piano? And they'll say, hey, what kind of song do you want? You give it to them. And then all of a sudden they play. It's just unbelievable. Like, it's really cool.
Or do magic tricks.
And magic tricks. But I can tell you, when we go to Omegle, and we go there quite a bit for the purposes of education and investigation, in less than a minute, you're seeing sexually inappropriate things taking place that shouldn't be seen.
So,
right?
I mean, like, you can get that piano and magic tricks on like full-blown YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are you using Omegle because there's that potential chance of risque behavior and that's the thrill you're looking for? Well, then, are you going to be able to do that safely? Well, unlikely, because you're putting yourself in an environment where anybody anywhere can say anything randomly at any moment. So the chances of bad things happening just increase.
Yeah.
If someone tried to scam you, why don't you just give them a fake password? I mean, that's possible.
Yeah. I always say, though, if somebody's trying to scam you, don't engage. Block, delete.
Yeah.
Like, don't engage, because by sending them a fake password, all you could do is really tick them off, and now they're going to come back for more, right? So I say, if somebody's trying to scam you, block and report it, and then block and delete.
Yeah.
Right? Report, block, and delete. Don't engage.
How would a hacker hack or scam someone if they don't tell their password? So if someone's trying to hack you, but you don't let them know your password. Well, there's ways to get passwords. Like, I trick you to downloading a program. It captures your keystrokes. I take that, get your password that way. So there's ways to get passwords without actually tricking you into telling your password.
Correct. Yeah, keystroke loggers, right, is a really good example of that, right? Piece of software that once some malicious software is dumped into your computer, every keystroke you're making, like you say, they can see. So when you're signing into your social media platforms, all of a sudden they see your username and they see your password. Boop, they got it.
Do hackers work together? It's possible. Like, when we're talking about bad hackers, yeah, it's possible. I mean, generally, they more so would learn from each other in somewhat secure online forums. Like, hey, have you tried this or tried that? So they can. It's not like necessarily they work in like a same building.
No, but they can create hives or collectives, right, amongst themselves to target specific individuals. So, yeah, they could, but a lot of times they also can operate individually as well.
Yeah. How do I deal with someone posting videos bullying me? I guess it depends on what the video is. I mean, if someone's just posting videos of you and you're just in public and they're just posting the video and you don't like that, well, I mean, yes, but there's no expectation of privacy in public. Now, if they're doing that, but they're making threats and saying horrible, evil, ugly, violent things against you, where what they're saying is not breaking the law, well, now you have something to go on. Or if it's happening during school hours, on school property, in violation of the school policy, well, then you bring it up to your school administrators who can enforce that policy.
Yeah, or here in British Columbia, for students here, you can report it to the Erase Bullying portal, right, online as well. So, yeah, that's what I would recommend you do.
Yeah, it really does depend the context of what the content is.
Right.
Yeah. Are you sponsored? No, I mean, we're not. When we do our broadcast,
Brandon would like to be.
Do you know anybody?
No, we're not. We're not sponsored, right?
No.
Like, we're not sponsored.
No, companies don't pay us to go do our broadcasts with schools. No. We thought about it because maybe, we could reach more schools and like lower the cost for schools so we can reach more.
Yeah. I mean, that's constantly, although we're pretty cheap relatively to a lot of other people who do what it is that we do, we still find that for some schools, in today's fiscally what's the challenging times, even coming up with $450 is tough to do. So, if there was a company that wanted to sponsor us where we could offset those costs, it would mean that more of these schools and individuals could have access to what it is that we're doing.
Yeah, just be for us finding the right person.
I mean, we do. That's one of the reasons why we try to make as much of what we do free, right? And get it out there so that the information's out there. But however, as a company, we still need to make some money as a social capital company so that we can pay for all the tech that we're using right now to do what it is that we do, right? So,
and to buy food,
and gas, and clothing.
I would like some food, please.
Yeah,
I would like to pay for food.
Yeah.
Is it illegal for someone to post videos about me swearing and saying rude things? Wait, so is it you swearing and saying rude things, or are they saying rude things to you?
Yeah, if it's somebody who's saying rude things to you, is it illegal? No, if it's rude, mean, or disturbing, probably not. However, if they're uttering threats to do you harm, then it does become illegal.
Or the rude swearing becomes harassment.
Correct.
So there's context there. Now, if somebody is recording you swearing and saying rude things, is it legal for them to do that? No. I mean,
no. If now illegal under the criminal code, no. If in a public place, no. If they're doing it on school property and the school has a code of conduct in place that prohibits the recording of other people without their consent on school property, then you could be in violation of the school's policy, right? And there could be consequences specific to the teacher or the principal taking action.
Yes.
Not illegal, though.
Again, just because there's a policy, it's usually can and cannot be enforced depending on the choice.
Right.
So like if someone's recording you saying bad things where you are doing something you shouldn't be doing, although someone's breaking the school policy by recording you, will that person get in trouble for that recording?
Well, it depends. Context, right?
Yeah.
If they take that recording of the other student doing something they shouldn't be doing on school property, immediately hand it over to the principal for them to deal with.
As evidence.
Probably not. However, if they're doing it and then recording it and posting it publicly on their social media platforms as a way to weaponize it for the purposes of social shaming
or clout,
then there's an issue and it could be in violation of the school policy, right? And therefore, the principal can now take corrective action
against both parties.
Right, for sure.
So, good question. There's a lot of ifs in there.
Yeah.
What actions count as harassment and what can I do about it?
Yeah, criminal harassment basically means, under the criminal code, if somebody says or does something to you to change the way that you lead your life because you're concerned about your safety, that is what is called criminal harassment under the criminal code. And so because of that, you should now be reporting it to a trusted adult and or law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. What is your opinion on the new intimate image legislation thing in British Columbia? I think it's a great move. I mean,
we were consulted.
We were consulted.
Yeah, we were consulted in the development of it, right? They really connected with us and wanted our experience because I think as a company, we had the most experience in this issue than anybody else.
Yeah,
right?
BC will be the 7th province who has developed some sort of civil legislation to expand the consequences of people distributing intimate images without authorization or keeping it in your possession when you've been asked to delete it or remove it. Sure, I mean, we'll see what happens when it actually, if it does pass. I won't see that it wouldn't pass.
No.
Will there be changes? Yet to see. But I think it's a move in the right direction.
I certainly do.
Giving people more control over their content, especially intimate content, is obviously wonderful to see.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it, yeah, we already have criminal laws to deal with this kind of stuff, but, the criminal civil side of things can take a lot of time. And what this legislation does is it expedites it primarily to get the pictures down, but it also holds those accountable civilly now for potentially a financial consequence, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, BC is now will be the 7th province to do this.
Yeah, it took us a little while, but I think the BC legislation, they learned from all the other legislations, so they kind of picked and choose what was the best of all to create the new one. We still think there's still a couple of little changes that need to happen with the legislation over time.
Yeah, like if someone is doing something, but they live in another country, but yet you're in BC, I mean, obviously it only applies to British Columbia.
Yeah, for
so,
sure.
I mean, it's not going to prevent every bad thing from happening.
No.
But, most of the time, if bad things involving intimate images, normally it's somebody you know locally.
Yep, for sure.
It'll probably solve a lot of issues.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when it's somebody who you know, love, or trust.
Yeah.
Right?
Can not having social media affect my job opportunities? Maybe not directly, like if you don't have anything, but if you are in a tough competition and your competitors applying for the same job is doing great, amazing, wonderful things, and they are basically upgrading their public persona
or leveraging
it to their advantage. I mean, although you may not be dinged negatively, your competitors might be uplifted because of the effort and opportunities they're creating by using social media when you are not.
And that's why we teach a program for grades 10, 11, and 12 students, leveraging social media for college, university, sporting, and employment opportunities.
Yeah.
So not having social media, can that be a negative? Can it stop you from getting a job? No. However, if I'm an employer and I'm looking at 2 candidates, I got one candidate who's showing lots of really cool, creative things using their social media that is very relevant to the position that I'm going to be offering, and one who doesn't, guess who I'm probably going to kind of consider, right?
Maybe one has an entire Twitter profile and YouTube profile dedicated to the business industry you're looking to get into. It's like, wow, you are showcasing your expertise in this field.
Exactly.
So, yeah. If you're so open about answering questions, then why do you put them under review?
The reason we do that is because the reality is, most schools we go to, there are going to be students who are going to be saying and doing things that are totally inappropriate for anybody else to hear or see.
Yes, right? Because we don't ask, when we do live broadcasting and students send us questions on their own devices, we get so many questions. We don't ask for your name. We don't ask for your email. So we see the inappropriate questions popping in.
Yes.
So we don't want the 500 plus other people watching to see those questions when we show them and talk about them. So, if we were to ask for your personal information and your name and your email, then probably we put them out there because you can be held accountable, right? But unfortunately, because we make it so open to ask us anything, we have to protect other people who may not have consented to see the horrible, evil, ugly things some people might send.
And do send sometimes, right?
And
it's rare, but
them.
it does happen.
Yeah. What is the minimum of positive social media accounts that you should probably have to leverage? I would say 3.
Yeah, 3.
3 is kind of like a good manageable number.
Right, for sure.
I would say still, sit on all the other ones out there.
Yeah.
But what you're really focusing on, maybe 3.
Yeah. I agree.
If I take a screenshot of someone bullying, could they get in trouble for that? Well, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you are collecting part of the evidence.
Yeah. This is one of the reasons why it's important that students know that, if there's a school fight going on, as a good example, on school property, and you're videotaping it using your camera and then posting it, there could be consequences to that, because you're now a firsthand witness to a potential crime and an assault. And what does that mean? That means that your phone can be seized by the police, which means that they're going to do a data dump on it, which could take weeks, if not months. So you may be away from your phone for a specific amount of time. Like, these are all consequences that can take place as a result of that, right?
What college did you go to, and what type of college was it?
Personally, I went to Camosun College, where I got an undergraduate degree, or Associate of Arts degree, in criminal justice, because I was going into policing. You?
I'm a little bit more longer of the explanation.
Here we go. Explain it.
All right. Did an undergrad in UVic, sociology, and a minor in technology and society. I went on to Royal Roads to do a master's in communications, specializing in online communications, hackers and scammers, and how they communicate with people to achieve their scams. And yeah.
He's the academic brain of this company.
Yeah. You have a little more life work experience. I have a little more academic experience.
For sure.
Would a boss or someone go to the 20th or 19th page on a Google search when they're looking you up on the internet?
Yeah, this question stems from, we mentioned in our leveraging program that most employers or recruiters are going to check the first, maybe the second or third page of Google, and probably the first page of images. They usually won't go any deeper than that. However, depending upon the company, like we worked with a company that needed, they were looking at candidates, and they needed these candidates to be looked at from a deep, dark search, both in the light and dark web, only because that company, the person they were hiring, had to have a secret designation by the government. So as a result of that, we had to do a very deep search. So we went through every page of Google. But again, that is extremely rare to happen. Yeah. Most companies, most employers, they're only going to look at the first, maybe the second or the third page of Google.
Is it bad for me to make a Snapchat account to talk to someone that ghosted me? So you're trying to get around their block and ban because you're using a different account. Is it bad? I mean, probably. I mean, it's kind of definitely inappropriate.
Yeah.
Like, hey, answer me, pay attention to me. Like, like that's kind of what you're doing. And that's just kind of like gross and inappropriate.
Yeah. And if a person wants to ghost you, then really, are they a friend? Like, right?
Yeah, but yeah, maybe that person has a reason for not wanting to talk to you.
Right.
Right. But now you're using other methods to get their attention. I mean, depending on how aggressive you are in that, I mean, you could be facing consequences with that as well. So honestly, I would say if they don't want to talk to you, then go find someone else to talk to.
Yeah, for sure.
Who actually does care to talk to you and is interested in your life.
Yeah, for sure.
How old do you have to be to learn to code? And how do I start?
I've seen coding classes taking place as early as elementary schools, right? Scratch, right? They start with Scratch, right? At the elementary level. So you can learn coding that is age appropriate right from elementary school all the way up, right? Through to graduating from high school into college or university. So you can start at any time.
What should I do if you accidentally download a virus? Well, immediately install and pay for some antivirus software to scan it, remove it, and get rid of it.
Yeah, make sure you, again, I recommend stay away from the free virus software stuff. Get something that's called a premium virus. We use something called Bitdefender.
Yeah.
That we use as our primary malware protection on our platforms.
Why do you have so many PCs? And, it's probably a question, because when we broadcast, we have a computer here and a computer here.
Yeah. One is for the presentation that we're doing. So the slides that you see when we pop things up. The other one allows us to see the Q&As. It allows us to, if we want to show something on the internet with a push of a button on our Stream Deck, we can go into that computer so that you can see something that we're pulling up on the internet for demonstration purposes. So that's why we use two computers. It allows us to multitask during a presentation in a very simplistic way.
Yeah, if I just have one computer, we'd have to get out. It takes up time. So that's why we have two PCs.
Yeah.
What do you do when you get framed for doing something bad on the internet and you don't have any proof? Good question.
Yeah, I mean, that's where a proper investigation is going to come into play, be it by a teacher, be it law enforcement. There's always two sides to a story. And just because there may be no proof to start with doesn't necessarily mean that you're still going to be held accountable. I mean, there's still other things that can be done from an investigative purpose, but there's no doubt that having proof is definitely a benefit.
Yeah, sure. We are seeing, I guess I would say, a slight increase in false reports.
Yes.
Of someone did something on the internet because someone either deepfaked their face, their voice, or edited something.
And, here's the other reality. If you make a fake report, or if you frame somebody criminally, so you go to the police to say that they've done this, and you frame them and did something that you shouldn't have done, like what you're telling, and that's called public mischief, right? Like that's illegal. You're not allowed to make a fake police report. So that's another consequence that could happen.
Yes. Now, what if somebody does frame you, they don't make a report, but just an innocent person sees that and they report that, but they have the full intention, honest intention. I saw this bad thing from you. It wasn't you. And they report that? Well, no, because, they're not the ones who made that, which, again, could create some challenges. But, that's why investigations happen.
That's right.
Do you think phones are important?
Again, context is everything. I mean, what are you using the phone for, right? I think, depending on a good example, we know a teen who's got diabetes type 1. And he uses his iPhone as a way to monitor his blood glucose as well as use his insulin pump, right? So there's a good example where that phone, that new technology is important. So again, context is everything. Is a phone something that is needed for everything in our lives? No. But does it make things easier? Sure, it does.
It depends because, a lot of online services require a phone number to verify who you are.
That's true.
So, a lot, people who are looking for jobs, usually phones are somewhat, if not required, for a part of the application process.
So, do I think that the high-powered phones are important for everybody? No, I don't.
Okay.
Right? Like, no, I don't. I don't think so, right? Like, I think lower powered Android devices or even flip phones sometimes are the better way to go for those who are younger and maybe don't have the digital maturity to use the more powerful smartphones that are out there right now.
Is real estate a good idea?
Well, it depends, right? I mean, traditionally real estate has gone like this, but you know, in the United States, there was a huge real estate crash that took place, and to a degree, real estate here in Canada is having some issues.
Any investment can have risk.
Right.
Generally, you know, investing in real estate has usually been a safe bet.
The problem, however, is in Canada and the United States, depending upon where you live, you may not be able to afford a down payment to purchase a property, right? Yeah. Like it
kind of goes on our expertise. Yeah. But, you know, thank you for the question.
Yeah, for sure.
Do hackers sometimes get away with it?
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, for sure.
There's not enough resources to investigate every single bad online hack that happens. It's just reality. It's a financial limitation. What should you do if someone threatens you?
Okay, that's clearly a crime, and that should be something that you immediately bring to the attention of an adult, be it a parent, be it a teacher, and report it to the police. Right? Screen capture it, right? So if they're threatening you online, screen capture everything so that you have it as evidence.
What should you do if a stranger sends you messages that make you feel uncomfortable?
My opinion, let them know that the message that they sent was uncomfortable. Now, if it's a stranger and they send you something that is uncomfortable, block, delete. Don't even reply, right? Because remember, a lot of times these guys are very Machiavellian in nature, right? Their whole goal is to send you something hoping that it's going to rile you up to the point where you're going to send something back. So now they know that they hooked you, which is a part of their lure. And all of a sudden they send something back and it becomes this escalating situation. So, you know, if a stranger sends you a message that makes you feel uncomfortable, don't engage, block and delete immediately.
What happens if a hacker has your email and password, even though you did not give it to them? Well, I mean, there's various ways people can hack into accounts, but if you feel someone's in your email especially, work quickly. Change your password and attempt to kick them out. Because if someone has your email, arguably, that's probably the worst type of hack that can happen. So you need to work quickly to recover that so you kick them off. Yeah. Because they're working quickly to lock you out.
Yeah. I think the other thing, too, is immediately change your username and password and engage wherever possible if they allow you two-factor authentication, right? Because two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication can go a long way in helping to prevent your email and your password from getting hacked in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. I mean, although you may not have given a hacker or scammer your password, I mean, if you're using the same password all the time and that old password was used in an online game that's no longer secure that a hacker hacked into and they're going to try that password into your email, yeah, you didn't give them or you didn't provide them your password, but they guessed it or they figured it out some other way.
Or they sent you like we're seeing this a lot on Instagram where they connect with you, they're then sending you a link saying, hey, can you help me out? And as soon as you click on that link, they send you now a screenshot saying, hey, to help me get access back to my account, just take a picture of this and send it to me. Well, as soon as you've done that, they now have your account information that they need to change everything, including your username and password. So they now take over your account, right? Yeah. So.
And those are our top upvoted questions from March. Thank you everybody for asking us those questions, and we'll do this again next month when we get more questions from more students. Stay safe, have fun, and have a great time online.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.